Everyone has a comfort show. That one show that whenever you're feeling down, you just become a couch potato and turn it on, even though you've seen all 5 seasons a million times. For me, that show is Steven Universe. The show centers Steven, a 13-year-old boy who is half human and half gem. And what is a gem exactly? A magical, all-female people from an alien planet. I love this show because of the complex characters it stars and the relationships that it builds between them. And many of these relationships happen to be queer. Rebecca Sugar, the creator of the show, was the very first non-binary independent show creator for Cartoon Network and has 7 Emmy nominations. Sugar is non-binary, genderqueer, and bisexual, and often explores their queer identity in their work. But why kids shows? As Sugar says, you can't wait until kids have grown up to let them know that queer people exist. And I'm so glad that Sugar recognized the importance of normalizing queerness early. When I was a kid, I used to watch this show after school for hours, ignoring my homework to see if Peridot and Lapis had finally gotten together. Even before I realized that queerness was a part of my identity, I latched onto these characters. Steven, the main character, is an incredibly emotionally intelligent, bright, and kind kid, but it wasn't normally him that I saw myself in. Sometimes it was Amethyst, the youngest gem, feeling distant from the group and bickering with Pearl. Other times it was Peridot, who struggled to understand social norms and connections between gems, despite vying for their attention. I saw myself in moments, in songs, in episodes, in a litany of female and non-binary characters, because Rebecca Sugar strived to show me that my feelings were valid, no matter what situation I was in. And I come from a Disney-approved family, with a mom and a dad, but I never find me off with Steven's living situation. Steven lives with 3 female gems serving as his parent figures, or overly involved aunts, or not really related by blood or mineral, as the gems clearly have no equivalent of that. While Greg, Steven's father, lives in a van a block away outside of the car wash that he owns. And Steven's living situation is very different from what I think a lot of people would expect it to be. But as a kid, I never saw anything off with it. I was more concerned with what powers the gems had than whether Steven lived with a mom and a dad. And despite Steven being male, seeing a household dominated by women, which reflected my own, with my mom, my sister, and my own very much female energy, was a welcome change from the male-focused shows I'd seen elsewhere. This show did a great job of showing me that I could be the most powerful person in a room. I could run a household and still wear a tutu and be named after a pearl. This show also made me a lot more accepting of others' family situations. I think it made it a lot more easier for me to understand why in my kindergarten Girl Scout troop I had a friend who would have 2 moms who would come and volunteer with us, or why later in elementary I had friends who lived not only with parents, but grandparents and extended family as well. Shows that represent non-heteronormative family structures in a positive or even neutral light make viewers more accepting of a diverse reality. And now it's time for the extremely smooth transition over to overtly gay characters. One of the most prominent examples of queerness in this show is Garnet. And Garnet is just one of the most prominent examples, as this show does a fantastic job of showcasing a litany of lesbians and, in all seriousness, the ability of queer relationships to be complex, unique, and varied. Garnet is a fusion of 2 female gems, Ruby and Sapphire, and fusion, in the world of Steven Universe, means that 2 gems literally fuse their bodies and minds together to create a new, joined being. Garnet is the embodiment of Ruby and Sapphire's love. And Steven Universe had the very first queer marriage in a cartoon in season 5, with Ruby and Sapphire getting married and sharing a celebratory kiss on screen, which is huge. Before this point, Cartoon Network executives hadn't poked same-sex marriage with a 10-foot pole, much less used it as a major plot point in a 30-minute special with 2 female characters kissing, taking up the entire screen for 30 seconds. And this episode has opened up a lot of room for other shows to show and discuss queerness. But gay characters are still often relegated to weird shows, like ones about lesbian space rocks. However, stories and characters like these are needed in greater numbers. If you have to search for a relatively niche show to get representation, a lot of kids who feel alone, or different, or wrong aren't going to get the reassurance they need from the media allocated to them. Kids like me, who didn't know what being queer meant, might never realize that loving girls is a part of them, and that it's okay for that to be a part of them. And kids who feel comfortable in their straight American ways might never develop the empathy that rules out hate and homophobia early. And that's why it's so important to have representation in kids' shows. Because developing empathy early, normalizing people early, is our biggest weapon against hate. And the media is a huge part of that. Historically, media and television has both influenced and mirrored public opinion. If the media's representation of the queer community is more positive, eventually, actual public opinion will rise with it. Of course, representing marginalized communities is a slippery slope, as many shows choose to represent the queer community as either massively closeted, the gay best friend, or a persecuted tragedy. However, when it comes to representing communities that are so often relegated to side characters or absent from casts completely, the risk is worth it. Steven Universe creates a safe space for everyone to feel what they feel. In the show, characters get mad, they have arguments, they cry, they have regrets. They love who they love, and they don't let others question it. For kids who grow up watching it, they develop a sense of belonging. No character is perfect, but their raw stories humanize them. And when you relate to someone, it's harder to hate them. For non-queer kids, this show serves the important purpose of acting as a test run, a window, so that they know how to react to family members and friends who they perceive as different. This show doesn't make different scary, it makes it fun. As Sugar says, something weird might just be something familiar, but from a different angle. And that's not so scary, right? So now, as the hard-won representation and even rights of the queer community are under attack, it's up to producers and show writers, streaming services and animators to recognize the importance of healthy representation, of showing queer people as people, real and worthy of admiration and respect. The right of all of us, straight, gay, trans, non-binary, human, gem, to see ourselves on screen and feel empowered. And the right of all of us to see someone we hadn't seen on our TV before and gain a new sense of empathy. It's also up to you to watch shows and support media like this, not only to develop your own sense of empathy and widen your worldview, but also to ensure that media like this is there for kids who need to see themselves on screen. And the main reason to watch this show isn't even that the characters are gay. They're also incredibly complex and follow an amazing plot. So go watch Steven Universe. Make your kids watch Steven Universe. Or make a new show that centers queerness in a healthy way, and make me watch it. Thank you.